Simplifying Expressions, Part 1. In this lesson, we are going to go over how to simplify mathematical expressions. We'll start by going over the definitions of an expression and an equation. Then we'll discuss simplifying expressions. And lastly, we'll introduce 3 of the 4 rules in the order of operations. Now, the first 2 questions you probably have, or at least the first 2 questions that I had when I was learning this for the first time, are what are mathematical expressions? And why should I care about simplifying them? The answer to the first question, what is an expression, is an easy one. Think of an expression as nothing more than part of a sentence or a phrase that uses numbers and symbols rather than letters and words. For example, 1 plus 2 is an expression. X plus 1 is an expression. 2 plus 3 times the quantity 8 minus 6 is a longer expression. Now, if we were to add an equals sign to an expression, we would have what is called an equation. 1 plus 2 equals 3 is an equation, as is x plus 1 equals 4. Converting an expression into an equation is just like converting a phrase into a sentence by adding a verb. For instance, game today is a phrase, whereas we have a game today is a sentence. 4 minus 3 is an expression, whereas 4 minus 3 equals 1 is an equation. Now, why should we care about simplifying expressions? Let me answer that question by using an example. When you talk to your friends, do you say, "How are you doing?" Or do you say something more along the lines of, "What's up?" Do you say, "I'll talk to you later?" Or do you just say something like, "Later"? My guess is that you use the short and simple versions of these sayings in everyday conversation. Well, in this lesson, instead of making English shorter, we are going to learn how to make math shorter by using a set of rules called the order of operations. Let's start with what I think is a really good example. If I were to ask you to calculate 1 plus 2 times 3, what do you think you would tell me? Well, a lot of people say the answer is 9. And when I tell them that the correct answer is 7, they often say something like, are you sure? Or even, there must be 2 answers to this problem. Thankfully, mathematics is a very precise subject, and one that is used by just about everyone, every day. I'm not just talking about engineers or scientists. I'm talking about everyone. When you go to the lunch counter and give the person $1 for a 75-cent candy bar, you will always expect to get 25 cents back, right? Likewise, 1 plus 2 times 3 will always equal 7. No doubt someone will argue that the way to simplify this expression is to add the 1 and the 2 and then multiply by 3 to get 9. But they'd be mistaken because they'd be breaking the rules used in simplifying expressions. To be specific, they'd be using the rules out of order, since they would be doing addition before multiplication. That is, to simplify the expression 1 plus 2 times 3, we need to multiply the 2 and the 3 first, and then add the 1. 2 times 3 equals 6, and 6 plus 1 equals 7. As we will discuss in this lesson and the next, there are 4 rules used to simplify expressions, and these rules are called the order of operations. We are going to go over 3 of the rules in this lesson, rules number 1, number 3, and number 4, and then we'll double back and add rule number 2 in the next lesson. The reason we aren't going to discuss them in order is because rule number 2 requires that we spend a little time going over exponents, and I think it'll be easier to put that off for now. So let's try a couple of problems that highlight rule number 3, which says to do all multiplication or division by reading from left to right, and rule number 4, which says to do all addition or subtraction by reading from left to right. To see these rules in action, let's simplify the expression 5 plus 2 times 3. We start with rule number 3 and multiply 2 times 3 to get 6. So we can rewrite our problem as 5 plus 6. Given that there is no more multiplication or division to do, we can now move on to rule number 4 and add 5 plus 6 to get 11. So 11 is the simplified form of the expression 5 plus 2 times 3. Okay, let's try one that's a little harder. How about 3 plus 5 times 2 plus 2? Here we see that a multiplication problem is hidden between two addition problems. As always, we do the multiplication first. 5 times 2 equals 10. Now we are left with the expression 3 plus 10 plus 2. And since we only have addition left, we can just add up the numbers from left to right. 3 plus 10 equals 13, and 13 plus 2 equals 15. So we've gone from 3 plus 5 times 2 plus 2 to 15. And 15 is a whole lot simpler than the original expression. Notice how I write each step under the one before it when simplifying expressions. Doing so makes it easier to organize the steps. Okay, two more problems. How about 7 plus 6 divided by 3 minus 3? Again, we first look for multiplication or division, and we find 6 divided by 3. So we simplify that first, and because 6 divided by 3 equals 2, we can rewrite our expression as 7 plus 2 minus 3. Now, because we have completed the division and all that's left is addition and subtraction, we just read the problem as we would read a phrase, from left to right. 7 plus 2 equals 9. And 9 minus 3 equals 6, so we have our answer. Okay, for our last problem, let's do one that combines both multiplication and division. How about 8 divided by 2 plus 3 times 2? To start, we look at our rules. Do multiplication or division, whichever comes first, before doing any addition or subtraction. As we read this expression from left to right, the first multiplication or division problem we come to is 8 divided by 2. So let's simplify that. 8 divided by 2 equals 4. So we rewrite the expression as 4 plus 3 times 2. This is where it's easy to make a mistake. Adding the 4 plus 3 hanging out in front is tempting. But we must ask, have we gotten rid of all the multiplication and division in this expression? Not quite yet. We still have 3 times 2, so let's simplify that. 3 times 2 equals 6, so we are left with the expression 4 plus 6. Now that we only have addition left, we can add 4 plus 6 to get 10. So 10 is the simplified form of the expression 8 divided by 2 plus 3 times 2. Okay, now before we move on, how about trying a few problems on your own? When you've finished, we'll add another rule to our list. Welcome back. So far, we have covered 2 rules in the order of operations. Do multiplication or division from left to right, and then do addition or subtraction from left to right. Let's now add another rule to the list. In our very first problem, we were asked to simplify the expression 1 plus 2 times 3. Now, we know to do multiplication before addition to get 1 plus 6. But what if we wanted someone to actually add 1 and 2 before multiplying by 3? The answer is an easy one. We just put parentheses or brackets around the 1 plus 2 to get the expression, the quantity of 1 plus 2 times 3. This expression is read as the quantity of 1 plus 2 times 3. The term the quantity indicates that things are grouped. If we didn't use this term, we'd have to say open parentheses, 1 plus 2, close parentheses, times 3, which is much longer to say. In any case, because rule number 1 tells us to simplify parentheses or any other grouping symbol first, we know to add the 1 and 2 before multiplying by 3. 1 plus 2 equals 3. And we are left with the expression 3 times 3, which equals 9. Let's try another problem. How about the quantity of 2 plus 3 times the quantity of 1 plus 1? Given that we have parentheses, we start there. 2 plus 3 equals 5, and 1 plus 1 equals 2. So after simplifying the parentheses, we are left with 5 times 2. Now we can simplify 5 times 2 to get 10. Easy enough? Okay, last problem of the lesson. The quantity of 2 minus 3 times 4 minus 5 times 6. Be careful, this one is a bit tricky because we have to follow our rules several times. To make things easier, the first thing we should do is rewrite the subtraction problems as addition problems. We do that and get the quantity of 2 plus negative 3 times 4 plus negative 5 times 6. Now we work on the parentheses. Notice that the parentheses contain both multiplication and addition. So we follow our rules and do the multiplication before the addition. In our first step, we multiply negative 3 times 4 to get negative 12. Remember, when multiplying, if the signs are different, the answer is negative. Now we have the quantity of 2 plus negative 12 plus negative 5 times 6. We still have parentheses, so we need to add 2 plus negative 12. The signs are different, so we subtract the smaller number from the larger number and use the sign of the larger number. 12 minus 2 equals 10, and the sign of the larger number, 12, is negative, so we get negative 10. So after simplifying the parentheses, we have negative 10 plus negative 5 times 6. Now that we have gotten rid of the parentheses, be careful. It may feel like you should add negative 10 and negative 5 next, but remember, we must complete all multiplication before we do any addition. So we first multiply negative 5 times 6 to get negative 30. Negative 30 because 5 and 6 have different signs. And we are left with negative 10 plus negative 30. We are now adding two numbers with the same signs, so we just add the numbers and keep their sign to get negative 40. Okay, we have now covered 3 of the 4 rules in the order of operations. Rule number 1, simplify parentheses or other grouping symbol first. Rule number 2 will be covered in the next lesson. Rule number 3, do all multiplication or division reading from left to right. And rule number 4, do all addition or subtraction reading from left to right. We have just one more rule to add to the list, but let's do that in the next lesson. Before we finish though, how about trying a few problems on your own?